the people who will hood them, and they have chosen Professor Tom Featherston and Professor Rachel Kincaid. So I want to tell you a little bit about Professor Featherston. There's Professor Featherston here. Professor Featherston is our senior faculty member. He has taught here for 43 years. He was my professor. I don't want to tell him all the things I've forgotten about trusts and estates, but he's just a tremendous teacher, a wonderful teacher, and he is also a teacher to practicing attorneys. They come to him, see him speak all around the country to learn how it's supposed to be done, and he's just a real asset to the law school and always has been. Tom, thank you for all that you do. So Tom is going to be one of the people who hoods them in class. You've chosen very well. And then Professor Rachel Kincaid is here. She's one of our newer faculty members, but already making quite the mark. She teaches in the area of criminal law and criminal procedure, and she writes. She's a prolific scholar and a rising star in criminal law and procedure scholarship. Already, we're very, very proud to have you on the faculty. And so again, graduates, you have chosen very well. Now, there is one more person on the stage that I will introduce, but I'm not going to do that now. It's Professor Jim Rim, but I'm going to save my remarks for him. He's our commencement speaker today, so I'll wait to give those remarks. But you see many other people here behind us, and they are our faculty and staff colleagues who are the ones who teach, who work to make this place run and to give these students the sort of experience that's going to allow them to be great lawyers. And so I would ask all of you to please stand and let's recognize their contributions to our graduates. Another tradition we have in our commencement is that the highest ranking student in the class gets to give a speech. I don't know if you knew that was part of the deal. You might have maybe tanked a class to avoid the obligation if you'd known. We sort of spring it on them at the end. But that person is Christopher Gray, and he is a tremendous student, a tremendous person. And so, Christopher, I call you to the podium for your remarks.
Okay, thank you, Dean Counselor, and good morning, everyone. If you had told me 8 years ago that I would be standing here delivering these remarks, I would have been a little bit surprised. You see, 8 years ago, I was a physics major at the University of Texas, and I had just failed thermodynamics. But looking back on it, all I really did to get here today is just to keep trying. I took thermodynamics a third time, and I finally passed it. I got a B-, and I just kept taking physics classes, and my grades improved. I got a B+ in general relativity, and that's probably still to this day my proudest grade. Doing Einstein proud at Baylor Law School. And so I eventually made it out of the UT physics department, and I got into Baylor Law School. And even after all that, while I was trying to write this speech, I realized that I still just don't know a whole lot of things. So just like everyone else graduating today, I'm standing right at the end of law school and right at the start of a whole new life. I don't know that much about being a lawyer, if anything. I don't know what challenges I'll face over the next few years, and I don't know how I'll solve them. In fact, I barely know much about being an adult. I'm 30 years old. My parents still pay for my car insurance. And 2024 is going to be the first year that I'll actually have to pay an income tax. And so I struggled to write these remarks because what could I possibly talk about that you all would find useful and interesting? You see, only about 4 of you are here to see me. The rest of you are here to see my friends, my fellow graduates, so what could I possibly have to contribute? And then I realized I know exactly what it takes to graduate from Baylor Law School. And so does your graduate. And if your graduate is anything like me, which they probably are at this point, they've probably had trouble explaining to you exactly what the experience is like. And I figured, well, if I can just shed a little bit of light on what your graduate went through to be here today, then you'd be just a little bit more proud of your graduate. And if you're just a little bit more proud of your graduate, then after I get done talking, I'll consider my remarks to be a success. Law school is difficult anywhere. It's 3 years of relentless academic challenge, late nights in a cold library, and unceasing reading assignments that at Baylor Law School just get worse over time. And for those of us who don't have any lawyers in the family, we found it extremely difficult trying to explain what we were going through. Who is a first-generation law student supposed to call when he's losing sleep because he can't quite grasp the difference between a past-recorded recollection and a writing used to refresh a witness's memory? It just doesn't land with somebody who hasn't been through it themselves. It hardly lands with me. Law students and their families endure financial sacrifices, years with no income, pouring time and energy into books, cases, and lectures with no guaranteed outcomes. Law students and their families endure social sacrifices, missed birthdays, including their own, skipped vacations, and abandoned hobbies. And then there's the ever-present weight of a GPA pressure that looms over every test and every class, making you feel like your entire future depends on just a few decimal points. But Baylor Law School is special. For starters, Baylor doesn't have semesters. It has quarters. And when I tried Googling which schools utilize a quarter system instead of a semester system, the only two schools I could find were Stanford and Chicago. So we're in good company. But the quarter system means that for the most part, what most students learn in the country learn over the course of a long, luxurious semester, we have to master in 9 weeks. And more than that, every 9 weeks, your graduate was like clockwork, subjected to the intense stress of final examinations, which normally in law school constitute 100% of the grade in any given class. And holidays were very frequently no reprieve. When we came home, but if you thought we were off for Christmas or Thanksgiving, you were mistaken, and you might remember those times. Instead of catching up on sleep or relaxing, we were buried in casebooks and outlines. And some of you might have been wondering why your graduate was still glued to their laptop over the holidays instead of watching movies with the family. Well, now you know. But something special happens in the grind. Your graduates get tough, and they got resilient, and they learned to handle it, and they learned to enjoy your company despite their responsibilities. And as much as we love to complain about how difficult it was, the reality is that none of us expect what's coming next to be much different. The pressure of real clients, real cases, real deals, and real jobs won't let up just because it's Thanksgiving or Christmas. And while we've gone through a lot to earn this degree, it's the hope and expectation of each of us in the graduating class that the toughness we developed at Baylor Law School will carry us through what's next. And I haven't even mentioned practice court yet. And in case your graduate hasn't been able to explain to you exactly what practice court was like, I will give it a try, and I will also fail. 5 days a week, class starts at 7:45 a.m. You're there until noon, and when you get out, you get to start working. In most cases, I found that there was about 4 hours of assigned reading every night, and some of your graduates are faster readers than me. I'm a little slow. But if you add on top of that the extra lectures, writing assignments, finding witnesses, preparing witnesses, writing direct examinations, writing cross-examinations, writing opening statements, writing closing statements, trying to outline, reviewing for quizzes, and if for some reason you find yourself in need of some extra instruction, you might be researching and writing a 10-page memorandum as well. If you manage your time perfectly, which most of us didn't, then you might have enough time left over to eat, sleep, and attend to the other more mundane realities of ordinary life. But from day one of practice court, each one of your graduates was held to the standards far and away higher than your average third-year law student. Every single page of reading had to be mastered. But there was just too much reading to remember it all, and so your graduates developed strategies to master the reading without memorizing it. And then there's the courtroom exercises. From day one, we were held to very close to professional standards. There were no warm-ups, and there was no easing into it. We were thrown in, and we either sank or we swam. None of us here swam perfectly the first time, and some of us never swam perfectly even the second or third time. And that's the core of the exercise. Practice court is perfectly dosed to be 6 months of constant stress, hardship, and failure. And every single one of us failed at some aspect of it, and most of us experienced repeated failures. But over time, every single one of your graduates rose to the occasion. Every one of them got back up after each one of their failures and kept going, and kept trying, usually with no recognition, with no pomp and circumstance, and with no guarantee that their next try would be any better. I solicited a little bit of input from the graduates today for my remarks, and one of them, who wished to stay anonymous, was able to put it quite well, probably better than I can, and I'll just read it to you. Practice court made me very resilient. I learned how important it is to always take the high road and to smile in the face of adversity. I remember it being such a dark day when we had that trial. There were countless objections and ceaseless feedback from the instructor, and it was difficult to feel like I was doing anything correctly. But I learned that I could take it, and not only could I take it, I could also do well, and now nothing is scary to me anymore. Practice court changed me, and law school changed me, and whenever I think about something hard that I need to do, I just think, been there, done that. End quote. All of your graduates will have a similar story to tell over dinner tonight, or maybe they told you about it last night. And because they kept going, they're here today. They're smarter, stronger, grittier, and much more dangerous than they were before they started here. And I think that's something that you all should be very proud of. As I was putting the speech together, I asked my classmates what they wanted me to say, and there were really only two themes. The first one is, please tell everyone that practice court was a nightmare. Nailed it. Second, overwhelmingly, the graduates wanted me to say thank you, and Dean Counselor touched on this a little bit, but perhaps you'd like to hear it directly from us. We want to say thank you to our families, our friends, our partners, husbands, wives, and our sons and daughters, and everyone else here who supported us and who endured the hardships right alongside us. Your support and your sacrifice began long before we ever set foot in law school. For some of us, it began when you immigrated here. It began when you gave up a job to raise us instead. And for some of us, it began when you took an extra job to be able to afford to put us in a better school. For those of us who are married, it began when you married us. And again, for those of us who are married, it might have continued when you decided to remain married to us. And over the last 3 years, many of you put up with incessant ramblings about the law. Some of you probably know as well as we do what happens if the defendant be not present in the territory of the forum. When does a government action trigger strict scrutiny? And to show I remember just a tiny bit of trust in estates, most importantly, some of you might be able to tell me, is it true that no interest in land is good unless it must vest, if at all, not later than 21 years after the end of some life and being at the creation of the interest? And so what this class wanted me to tell you most of all is that this achievement isn't just ours. It belongs to you too, because no one gets through something like this alone. If I have anything to contribute to today, if I have anything to say on behalf of all these graduates, it's that you can rest assured that your sacrifices and your patience and your support, none of it went unnoticed. Even if we don't always say it, even if we sometimes or most of the time struggle to see what's right in front of us, on behalf of all today's graduates, your role in making today happen has not gone unnoticed, and your role in our success is not unappreciated. Thank you.
Well done, Chris. You know us. And I also want to say, good job. Good job. There is, though, sort of the rest of the story for Chris, but he's too humble to say it. I know about the very fine firm he's going to work for, and I have a sense of what they pay new associates. Chris, where's your mom and dad? Are they? Feel good about getting him off your insurance. Feel very good about that. Guilt-free, cut him loose. And as far as not paying taxes, well, you're about to make up for lost time. You are about to make up for it. Thank you, Chris. That was fantastic. It's now my privilege to introduce the commencement speaker for today, and that is Professor Jim Wren. You can read his bio in the program. I'm not going to go through it line by line, but he is a wonderful teacher, a wonderful lawyer, and a fantastic person. He's been on our faculty full-time for 18 years. He's been the director of our practice court program. It is very, very difficult to find someone to be an effective practice court director because you have to be able to do and teach. And you know the old saying about that. Well, Professor Wren can do and he can teach, and he has done that here. He has, in his time at Baylor Law School, shaped an entire generation of Baylor lawyers, and our profession and our society is going to be better because they were taught and mentored by Professor Jim Wren. He demands the very best from students. That's 7:45 a.m. in the morning. And he won't accept anything less. But he also has this demeanor about him, this air about him, because it's who he is, that he cares about them and that he wants them to be successful. Today comes at for all of us, a sort of bittersweet moment, because today is Professor Wren's final day on the full-time faculty. He is not retiring. He's made that very clear. Professor Jim Wren will never retire. He will be working 80 hours a week for the rest of his life, but he is going back into the full-time practice of law. You can, take the trial lawyer out of the trials, but not the trials out of the trial lawyers. He's got to go back and scratch that itch. But he will continue to teach at the law school, but just not full-time. But still, we are very sorry to see him go because he's just been a wonderful colleague and a wonderful teacher, and I'm just so proud to have been his colleague. And graduates, you couldn't have made a better choice today. Professor Wren.
Well, we're graduating, all of us together, and I'm glad to be here. I guess the difference is you're a first-timer at this law school graduation. I'm a second-timer. That, I guess it would be fair to say that's synonymous for an old-timer. But with that, looking back, I guess my first time around was in May of 1980. That was a while back. But I want to share with you just a little bit of what I think is helpful in calibrating your approach to practice, just based on my experience. I believe that the practice of law can be incredibly fulfilling. It has been in my life, but it has not been without stress, not been without anxiety. My wife still laughs at me when invariably, and I've continued trying cases while I've been here teaching practice court, and Sometimes they are here, oftentimes they are elsewhere, but if I'm in a hotel room on that Sunday night before we're picking a jury Monday morning, she laughs when I call because she knows how it's going to start out. Something along the lines, and here in this church, please excuse the language, but it is accurate. I don't know why the hell I do this, but I do, because I know that I will get in there, and I love being in the trial. I just do not like the stress, the gut twist of preparing for trial. I believe you have some understanding of that now, as you have been through that process. The practice of law, the practice of law is stressful, and you're stepping into it. You're stepping into it intentionally, willfully. Recognize that. It is not an accident that there are higher substance abuse rates, there are higher depression rates, there are higher suicide rates. And I say that very seriously in the practice of law than in most other professions. And how does that square with being fulfilling when there is that sort of anxiety that can go with it, and at times certainly goes with it? You know, I'm a believer in being a constant learner, a continuous learner. And one of the books that I was just reading a couple of weeks ago, some of you may have read it, Crucial Conversations. It's in its third edition now. It's been a bestseller for many years. And near the end of that book, it was recounting, basically telling a very current story of the highest rated moving service in the state of Utah. It's called Other Side Movers. Okay, and I'm always interested in how's any organization doing well. And then the interesting twist that I quickly picked up on, this isn't your average moving company. These are all convicted felons. Just what you want when you're getting ready to move and turn over all your family possessions, load them up to take them across town or across country. Yeah, let's call the local felons. That's Other Side Movers. They're part of something called TOSA, the Other Side Academy, TOSA. They are housed in a large brick home in Salt Lake City, Utah. It was built in 1892. It was the first large house that had indoor plumbing in Salt Lake City. But here we're now a century and a quarter more beyond that point in time, and it now holds at any given time 120 convicted felons. These are not ex-convicts. These are folks who have applied to be part of this academy in lieu of going to prison. And of course, they can only be there as long as they are staying out of trouble. But still, there's a real stretch between being in some sort of halfway house and having top-rated businesses. Interesting thing is, they have no guards, they have no therapists, they have no counselors, no real organization other than an organization composed of these convicts. How does this work? And the interesting thing is, and for those of you that have just been through practice court, you may pick up on some degree of familiarity here. They have something every Tuesday and Thursday night called the games. And on the games, they select one or two of their fellow members to step up on stage, and then they are publicly in front of the 120 basically graded. They are called out for things that are problematic. They are at times berated. I gather it can at times feel brutal. You have any understanding of that? Now, how does that translate? How does that process translate into incredible success over time? We're going to circle back to that here in just a moment. But first I want to digress into another organization that deals with people that helps people that are in the midst of true problems, true stress, true anxiety. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and other sort of sister organizations, Narcotics Anonymous, etc. And because I am very interested in how it is that over the last almost 100 years, the last 80 years, had such tremendous success rates. I've been delving into it, and there is an emphasis on a recognition that we don't have it all together. There is an emphasis on a higher power, and from that a higher purpose, and then this collective sense of we're all in it together. And what the success rate is over time compared to any other sort of therapy or any other sort of approach is astounding. There's something there. There is something that really connects. And in part, it is because it leads off with step one, a recognition that we, each of us, are not fully in control. That we have to step into a surrender, not a victimhood, not a surrender into life, but in a surrender of the idea that we have full control. And that a recognition that we need to reach into a higher power, we need to recognize a need for a higher purpose beyond just self, beyond just self-control. Coming back, circling back around to the Other Side Academy. One of the things that, as I have delved into it, been looking at it, one of the things that is very striking is the reaction of folks coming into this program in the beginning. As they are first being called out, put up on that stage, and they are being at times berated for the conduct that they are involved in, maybe what has brought them there, maybe an attitude, whatever it is. But the emphasis is on speaking honestly and frankly. Boy, I would hate to be subjected to that in front of a crowd. And oftentimes, in the beginning, the reaction is incredible, one of two things. Incredible defensiveness. That's not right. You're a jerk for saying that. Let me tell you what I think about you sort of reaction. Or it is a retreat into victimhood of, yes, I am worthless. Yes, I've never been able to do anything. And as I read the stories of some of these people that are in the Other Side Academy, golly, it is, it's heart-wrenching at times. For example, a woman that is in there, when she was 5 years old, she and her mother were left homeless, started living under a bridge. Can you imagine that of a 5-year-old? And at age 10, she was introduced to meth by her mother, who was a meth addict, and of course, became herself a meth addict. These folks, the average number of arrests that they have been in, the average is approximately 25 arrests, some more, some less, but they're all convicted felons. And so there is this either very combative attitude or this very defeated attitude. But what happens over time? And let me add one more thing to that. As I was delving into this, because it intrigued me, Oftentimes in the beginning, when they were then given the opportunity to direct their comments to the others on the stage, maybe someone that had directed comments to them, what did their remarks tend to be? Attacking. They tended to be, I can show you how I can dish this back out. And they were anything but supportive. But here's the remarkable thing. What happens over time when somebody comes to recognize that I do not live my life because of what others think about me? Over time, these convicts start to listen and start to separate out the good from the bad in the comments, start to say, yes, I can change. Yes, I can make that adjustment or this adjustment. And they also come to recognize, because I can make that adjustment, I am not a victim. I am not just condemned to live a life that is just a waste. And over time, they come to recognize that I alone can do it, but I cannot do it alone. We're all in it together. Their comments to others over time start to become more supportive, more affirming. Yes, there are things you can do, but you can do this. And there is a progression that these folks are going through. And over time, they are producing incredible results. Back to that example, top-rated moving company. They're amongst the top in the U.S., top-rated moving company in Utah. These are people that become trusted by folks that are hiring them to move their family possessions. And you may be wondering, what the heck does this have to do with the practice of law? It is this. I believe that we are all just humans. We are all just people. We all have our flaws. And yet, when we come to recognize that we don't want to buy into the addiction of applause, we don't want to be feeling like we are having our paper graded by others, and that I'm good as long as I am getting applause, and I am torn down, highly defensive, or in retreat when I get the negative comments. When we recognize that our purpose is a God-given purpose, and our purpose is to connect with others, to step forward for others, and that we're all in it together, it frees us. It starts to make us recognize there is a higher purpose in what we're doing. It's not about, yes, I want to be successful for my family, I want to take care of my family, but when my purpose, first and foremost, is to follow the higher calling, the higher purpose of what I believe God has called me to, when you find that purpose in what you're doing that is more than just applause, that is helping people, struggling for people, fighting for people, and recognizing that people are worth that, and that there is so much more that they can achieve with your help. You will find, I'll just tell you, you will find the practice of law absolutely to be fulfilling, because it is about people. It is about connecting with people. It is about taking care of people. We are not called into being the star. We are not called into being the victim. We have a higher calling than that. And when we find that, when we become attuned to that leading that God is leading us into, and we're fighting for that, and we're fighting for those people, then fulfillment follows. I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to be part of your training, part of your progress, part of this journey. And I look forward to being part of your journey going forward. You've heard me say, and I mean it, and I want to say it again. As I can help you going forward, as I can be at the other end of that phone call or that Zoom or whatever else, please pick it up. Let's have that conversation. And I just want to congratulate you on this moment here today. Proud of you.
Wise words, Professor Wren, and again, graduates, you've chosen wisely in your speaker. We have now come to the point where we will confer upon you the degree. Professor Wilson, Dean Wilson.
Graduates, please stand. And let me join first in congratulating you. Dean Counselor, each of the candidates before you has completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as prescribed by the faculty of the law school and by Baylor University, acting through the authority of its Board of Regents. It is my pleasure to present to you the class for the conferral of the degree.
Each of you has completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as set forth by the Baylor University School of Law. Upon the certification of the Faculty of Law, and on behalf of the Baylor University Board of Regents and myself, it is my pleasure to confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor. Congratulations. The graduates are going to move this way in preparation for walking across the stage. As your beloved graduate's name is called, recognize where you are. We're here in a church, so no hooping and hollering, just kind of a golf sort of clap. I'm just kidding. You need to make as much noise as you can when your graduate's name is called. In fact, we play a little game up here. We're keeping score. We assign a winner, and we measure your love by the amount of noise you make when they come across the stage. So, let us begin.
Morgan L. Arnett. Mirza Shayan Beg. Dejamine Monique Bryson. Clara May Carlton. Joshua Allen Kramer. Paul Christopher Gray, magna cum laude, highest ranking student in the graduating class. Seth Cody Houghton, cum laude. The next graduate earned a special distinction in litigation, Taylor De La Cruz Kennedy. Gabrielle Joan Lesueur, magna cum laude. The next graduate earned a special distinction in litigation, Robert Christian Parker. Ashley Chung Tran. Christina Nicole Woodall, cum laude.
Well, the winner will be announced at the reception that we will have immediately following this. That was a lot of love. Art, musical instruments, wonderful stuff. If you ever attend another Baylor Law School graduation, bring your boat horn, your cowbell. All that is welcome, even in the church. Well, we are going to conclude our ceremony here shortly. I want to thank the people who helped put this program together. I think our commencement ceremony is something really special, and it's only 10:59, right? That's not bad. That's not a bad thing. I want to thank the student workers who I've seen here, but I especially want to thank Jerry Cunningham, Susie Daniel, and Lauren Porter, who kind of organized this and put it all together, fixed my broken zipper 2 minutes before we had to start this. So thanks to all of them. And of course, everybody behind me here who makes this happen for our students, now graduates. So here's what we're going to do. It's a little strange. We're going to process out. We're going to go right up the center aisle, out that door. And I'm going to ask all of you to sort of remain where you are, because we're immediately going to come right back in. We're going to do a U-turn. We're just going to do a U-turn. And we're going to come right back up here at the front, and we're going to have our photographer take the official photograph of this graduating class. You all, of course, will take the opportunity to get something as close to an official photograph on your cell phone as you can, but make sure that we are all looking at our official photographer. He will then say, okay, now you can shout at everyone to look at you. Okay, but we're going to do the official photograph first. Then I invite all of you to come to the Law Center. We have a heavy hors d'oeuvre reception there for you. You can see some of the classrooms and the courtrooms, maybe the courtrooms. We have an event going on there, but you can see where your graduates have shed their blood, sweat, and tears, and where all this torture that Chris talked about happened. And I think you'll enjoy that. So we certainly would love to have you. We'll go over there and see you as well. Okay. Go forth and serve. That's what it's about. We serve. You heard it from Professor Wren. You're hearing it from me now. Help people. Put other people above yourselves. All the stuff that you want, it'll take care of itself if you help other people. Let's go forward.